A warm welcome to our business show today, and our guest today is Bruce Houlder, and you've got an amazing title, haven't you?
Yes. Well, good morning, Steve. Yes, my title is the Representative Deputy Lieutenant for the London Borough of Hillingdon. That is an appointment made by the Lord Lieutenant of Greater London. The Lord Lieutenant, of course, has a responsibility for all those London boroughs. He couldn't possibly do that himself, so he appoints a representative in each borough. And as the Lord Lieutenant, his job is to uphold the dignity of the Crown, and we do that in the boroughs. The job is much more than that, but that's what we do.
So you've popped in today to talk about the Queen's Award for Enterprise,
Yes.
which is an award that companies can apply for. And apparently there haven't been enough applications, we think, from our area in Hillingdon. So you want to promote the award and get more Hillingdon companies applying.
Yes, I think what we want to do is to raise awareness of the opportunities that are available for businesses large and small to apply for these particular awards. They're the sort of MBE, I suppose, for the business world, and the only honour that can be given to a business. I mean, it's given for all sorts of things. People shouldn't put themselves out of account because they don't think they do anything interesting or important enough. It's done for innovation, so small startups, new businesses can think of applying for this once they've established themselves and got a track record which they can prove. For international trade, your contribution to international trade, for sustainable development, obviously a very big thing at the moment. And if you can demonstrate that your contribution is significant there, then again, that might be an opportunity to apply. Promoting opportunity through social mobility. Royal Household, for example, are very interested in inclusiveness, very interested in promoting those who are less advantaged than the rest of us, who suffer from disability, things of that kind. And if you as a business can demonstrate that you make a particular contribution in that area, quite apart from the main work that your business does, well, obviously that is a tick in the box, which will help you towards one of these awards. They really are, I think, worth having, and they put your name out there as well.
So what do companies get if they are awarded one of these Queen's Awards?
Well, they get the right to say that they are winners of the Queen's Award on their letter paper and on their advertisements. They have to follow certain rules. The Royal Household obviously is a little fussy about how its name is used, but there is an actual award given. It has the royal crest upon it, and they can use it in their advertising material, so long as it is discreet and appropriate.
And they would be invited to meet the Queen to receive the award?
They wouldn't necessarily meet the Queen. And very often these awards are given by the Lord Lieutenant of Greater London. There have been occasions when, as the Representative Deputy Lieutenant, I have given the award myself, but probably not on this occasion a garden party. There are many occasions, or an investiture, there are many occasions where individuals receive that, as you know, but not so much for the business awards.
So what are the entry requirements if you wanted to apply?
Well, I cannot off the top of my head reel them all off, but what you can do is to go on to the website of the Greater London Lieutenancy, which I hope you'll be putting up on your Facebook page.
Oh, yes.
And there are various links that you can press that give you access to the application form and the criteria that you must fulfill in order to get the award. But it isn't either a daunting form or a very surprising or complicated form. You just need to be able to show that you have made a contribution. There is no exact measurement of it. There is no absolute criteria that fulfills the requirement for the award. What happens once the nomination is put in is that the Honours and Awards Committee for the Greater London Lieutenancy will vet the award and make recommendations to Her Majesty for those organisations all over the country who should receive the award. But they aren't as difficult to get as people may think.
Okay.
They're really not. And the Royal Household are very keen to promote the existence of these awards and very keen to award them where they're well deserved.
So the website would be greaterlondonlieutenancy.com.
That's right, yes.
And there's a click here for more information on there. And that then takes you through to a page about the awards, and it lists all the what happens if your company wins and about the awards. But I'm quite intrigued on how
There is, I see there on the website, there are an invitation to a royal reception.
Yes.
That may well be the case. We are not actually personally invited to those. we do the groundwork, as it were, trying to find people to put themselves forward, but we don't get invited to the reception. To be fair, we get other invitations during the course of our time as lieutenants.
I'm quite intrigued on the sort of history and the background to this and how you came to be involved in it. I mean, how long has it been around, the lieutenancy?
Well, it started in the time of Henry VIII. It was actually, Lord Lieutenants were originally appointed during the reign of Henry VIII, in fact in the 1540s, to take over the military duties of the sheriff and to control the military forces of the Crown. They were responsible for raising armies in times of trouble, either local rebellion, which they were required to put down on behalf of the king, or to raise armies to go and fight, I suppose in those days, the Irish or the French or something of that kind. There are now 98 Lord Lieutenants who cover the whole of the country from Shetland to Cornwall, Tyrone, South Glamorgan and Greater London. Every borough in Greater London has about the population, in rough terms, of the average county in England. Therefore, the Lord Lieutenant can't possibly do that himself. So that's why I'm the representative for this borough.
I see.
It's a voluntary role, of course.
So no money in it?
No money in it. No, we don't even get expenses. But it is a pleasure. And most of us are coming towards the end of our working life, our professional life, whatever that happens to be. And we do want to make a contribution in some way. In my case, it was particularly wonderful that I had this opportunity. I just came out of the blue, but I hadn't been particularly involved in community life, even in the place where I live, which is Mortlake. And therefore, to be invited to do a job like this and find out what really does go on in the community, to meet the kind of people that make our society work, that make a contribution to our society, has been for me a real honour and a real privilege. I can't tell you how lucky I think I am to be able to do this job.
So you aren't raising armies at the current time?
Unfortunately, we don't raise armies anymore. We haven't got that power.
I'll have to go to the Crown and Treaty pub. There's some history in Uxbridge at the Crown and Treaty to do with the King Henry, I think, from the 1600s.
Ah, well.
I'll have to look into that and
maybe I will
research that. Yes. Now, let's chat about your other jobs, how you got into that's quite interesting, I think, because you haven't been doing this long, I suppose, have you?
No, I started the job as representative Deputy Lieutenant for Hillingdon in 2014. So it's quite a long time.
I suppose it is.
Quite a long time. Yeah. I'm nearly 73 now, so I shall have to retire when I'm 75 from this job. That's an arbitrary ages provision, which requires us to allow others to come and do the job.
But you've done some interesting things in your career before this.
Well, I've loved my professional life. I've been a professional barrister for all my working life, which is now 50 years. A part-time judge for 34 of those years, and then in 2008, I became something called the Director of Service Prosecutions, which meant that I left my everyday practice and went away and was responsible for forming the first tri-service prosecution, Army, Navy and Air Force. And we ran that from our RAF Uxbridge to begin with. Then Uxbridge closed down and we moved across to Northolt. All my staff, professional staff, were members of one of the three services. A completely strange job for me, but a wonderfully rewarding job. One of the funniest things that happened there was that it was all debated in Parliament, the creation of this new role, which I was fortunate enough to get. And the idea that a civilian could ever do that job was regarded as anathema by some old generals and other ex-army people in the House of Lords and to some extent in the House of Commons, and so they required the Secretary of State to give an undertaking that if some civilian got the job, that civilian would receive an induction into the life and work of the three services, such as no other civilian, and I quote, had ever received. And so for on and off for about 8 months after I got the job, I was carted all over the world, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Gulf, all over the country here to Army, Navy and Air Force bases. I was introduced to operations and the work that they did and the kind of lives that they lived so that I could understand what I was involved in. Mm. I actually did come under fire at one point.
Okay.
That is my only war story because I was fast asleep, completely exhausted in a Chinook helicopter at the time. It may have just have been someone lighting a cigarette on the ground as we flew low over Afghanistan.
Right.
Because the trigger mechanisms on these, the chaff that goes out from the Chinooks are very sensitive.
Okay.
But it made a heck of a lot of noise, and I woke up in Lashkar with a lot of soldiers laughing at me because I was fast asleep.
Oh, some great stories, I'm sure. So that's fantastic. Then any local businesses wanting to apply for the Queen's Award for Enterprise, head over once again to the Greater London Lieutenancy.com. There's a button to click there for more information. And I gather you also handle personal awards and awards for community, things that have happened in the community.
Yes, I mean, part of our role is to get involved with the community on every level. Youth, different faith groups, different occupational groups, heritage organisations, and try to build bridges between those organisations. And in the course of that, you're likely to meet a lot of very interesting people. And you get to talk about how they can be rewarded and thanked for the work that they do. And you can encourage individuals who usually don't advertise themselves. It's other people who come up to say to you, well, what about Olive? What about so-and-so? She's been working at this hospital for 40 years. She does this, that and the other. We want to thank her in some way. What can we do? Put her forward for an honour is the answer. And that, again, how to do it is to be found on www.greaterlondonlieutenancy.com. And go onto there. You find out how to nominate somebody. You get various references as well, and it's then considered, as all these awards are, by the Honours and Awards Committee. I will get it consulted at some stage, not necessarily to go and meet that individual and find out whether that individual is worth the award. In fact, quite the opposite, because the whole thing is hush-hush, and they shouldn't be aware that someone has put them forward. But if I have met them, or I can make discreet inquiries and find out a bit about them, I can then add something to the pack of information that goes forward to the Prime Minister and eventually to the Sovereign. But it goes through the office of the Lord Lieutenant and our own Honours and Awards Committee, who do a certain amount of discreet work. There is obviously other more formal vetting that goes on for any individuals in our society, but that is another pleasure that we have, be able to lift people out of their community into the open air and to give them some recognition for what they've done. We can too put people forward for invitations to the Buckingham Palace garden party in the summer. We can put people forward for lunches. This is an unusual one. Lunch with the judges at the Old Bailey.
Right.
And then a tour of the Old Bailey afterwards, which is quite an interesting trip. I know that from my own work, and I have been at these lunches myself and seen how thrilling it is for people to meet actually what are perfectly normal people, judges at the Old Bailey, and chat about the work that they do, and then have a tour of the courts and so on. It's rather grand at the Old Bailey because it's the City of London that fund the Old Bailey, and the lunches are really rather splendid.
Ah, right. Now then, now you're talking. Right, well, thanks for that. We might do another video if you're watching this one, because you've also got another passion, which is helping out with some knife crime awareness in London. So watch the separate video on that. But for now, Bruce Houlder, I think you have the award for the best title of anybody coming in so far. Representative Deputy Lieutenant for London Borough of Hillingdon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve.